All the Kengan Ashura fights so far in Season 1 and 2 will be ranked here. But before we get into that, I did do a recap for Season 1 last week. You can go check that video out. There's a little giveaway going on there. There's still time to enter. The winner will be announced in my next video, so that gives you a couple of days from when this video releases to still enter that. So there's still some time, and good luck to you all. Now, with that being said, let's enter this Kengan Ashura fight ranking video. A couple things I'll state. Number 1, my opinion does not matter. Number 2, nobody's opinion matters. Number 3, honestly, from number 24 to about number 10, maybe even to like number 5, this list is very interchangeable. On any given day, I could have picked a different list. This is just what I happened to come up with on this particular day. Judge me all you want. Shit on me in the comments all you want. It helps the video. With that being said, I'll be keeping the comments from 24 to 10 pretty short, and then I'll get into a little bit more detail as to why I picked the top 10, especially the top 5. Because those, I think, are just the 5 best fights. So subscribe, like, comment, and let's get into the rankings. Number 24, Keijaburo Sawada versus Julius Reinhold. There is no fight. The one outside the arena doesn't count, and it would still be in last place even if it did count. Number 23, Masumi Nezu versus Rei Mikazuchi. I'll keep this comment as long as the fight. Number 22, Takashi Wakatsuki versus Gozo Murobuchi. Another one-hit fight, just cooler than the last one. Number 21, Takayuki Chiba versus Sen Hatsumi. Chiba could have been a lot cooler than he was with his copying ability, but he got fucked in 3 hits. So he ends up at the bottom of the list. Number 20, Lee Hito versus Gensai Kuroki. Lee Hito just got made to look like a bitch, but in turn, Kuroki was pretty badass with how superior he was. Number 19, Hajime Hanafusa versus Yohei Bando. The main reason this is so low is because I'm not really a fan of either of these characters, nor their abnormal bodies. Definitely the lowest of the closely contested fights. Number 18, Sen Hatsumi versus Yohei Bando. The worst of the round 2 fights in my opinion. Again, not a fan of Bando, and his fighting style was just a bunch of squiggly lines flying over his head. Not too visually appealing. I did like how Hatsumi ended the fight though. That's his one saving grace. Number 17, Muteba Gizenga versus Masaki Meguro. Masaki as a psycho didn't really intrigue me, and Gizenga didn't seem too interesting at first either, until we found out he was blind and handled Masaki like it was nothing. Plus, this has the only official death of the tournament. So bonus points right there. Number 16, Haruo Kono versus Seishu Akuya. Listen, I don't like cheaters. The fight itself was solid, but Akuya being told what to do by his employer didn't sit well with me. Also, what justice are you talking about? What the fuck did this guy do? Number 15, Saw Peng Yorezuka versus Yoshinari Karo. Saw Peng can be loud, but I find it more charming than annoying, plus he's got the skills to back it up. Karo is nothing special, but I really like this pose he gives us in the fight. Number 14, Ryo Inaba versus Oma Tokita. Our main character's first round fight can't be too high because we had already seen him fight and use the advance before. But I kind of like the hair technique, and even though the explanation behind it isn't realistic, it kind of sounded like it almost might make sense to me. Maybe I'm just stupid.
Surrounded by idiots! Idiots!
Number 13, Ren Nikaido versus Setsuna Kiryu. Ever since we were first introduced to Kiryu, he's been built up as this mysterious rival to Oma. So it was interesting to finally see what he could do. He didn't disappoint, and based off this fight alone, he almost seemed OP. Number 12, wait a second. You haven't liked, subscribed, or commented? We're halfway through the list. Come on already. Why are you even still watching if you haven't done those things? Wait, don't click off the video now. Number 12, Adam Dudley versus Cosmo Imai. The first fight of the tournament may not have been the best of the first round, but it definitely set the tone for me of what we were in for. And that's just a fun time with fighters of all different sizes and techniques, not just big dudes who can punch really hard. Plus, I really like Cosmo's hair when he enters zone. Number 11, Mokichi Robinson versus Ryan Kure. The way Chairman Katahara was talking about Robinson, he almost had me thinking he was going to beat Ryan. I don't know if I can even count the second half of the fight as a fight, it was more like a massacre, but it was fun to see what the Kure family can do. Also, speaking of Chairman Katahara, his granddaughter, whew, I think I'm in love. She might be my favorite announcer that I've ever seen in an anime, ever. Just listen to how she announces the fighters. God, it's just so good. Okay, let's go back to the video. Number 10, Gaolan Wongsawat versus Suikichi Kaneda. Entering my top 10, we start with a completely biased pick. Gaolan is my favorite fighter, even though I don't know how the fuck to say his name properly. I could totally see people thinking this fight is in the lower tier, but let me defend it for a second. I really liked Kaneda's perseverance, even though he knew he was weaker. Then the 10 moves that led to his defeat once Gaolan got serious were almost like a dance. It was just fun to watch. And it ends in maybe my favorite shot of the series so far. Number 9. Jun Sekibayashi versus Takeru Kiyozan. Sekibayashi is a really good entertainer for the audience in the show, and for us in real life. That's really all this fight was. Entertainment. I guess that's every fight. It was nice to see two big dudes just go at it, each one getting their own licks in. Different styles of fighting. Legs, arms, throwing, wrestling, all kinds of shit. The fight swaying both ways. And the fact that Kiyozan actually kind of hated Sekibayashi just added to the entertainment factor, because you knew as much as he wanted to win, he really didn't want to lose to Sekibayashi. Number 8. Saw Pang Yorezuka versus Rei Mikazuchi. The backstory for Saw Pang here and the fact that he's basically fighting for his village's survival really added to the weight of the fight and made me want to root for him here. Add that to finally seeing what the simp Mikazuchi can really do with his lightning spirit style, and it made for a really interesting fight. Honestly, Mikazuchi probably carried this fight because unlike Bando's fast attacks, his were more precise and they actually landed, making them more visually appealing. Number 7. Cosmo Imai versus Seishu Akuya. The first fight of the second round probably would be much lower if you were just judging the beginning of the fight, but when Cosmo awakens something within himself, it immediately becomes more intense, and honestly, I didn't know who was going to win at that point. I'm a sucker for grappling in this show, so Imai winning the way he did just really bumped up this fight in the rankings for me. Number 6. Gensai Kuroki versus Setsuna Kiryu. Entering this fight, it was natural to assume Kiryu would win, judging solely on screen time. So the twist of his defeat on its own really made me like the fight and Kuroki a lot more, but even throughout the fight there were a lot of good moments. The beginning where Kiryu was attacking with Blink, and Kuroki was staying in one spot blocking in every direction, kept me on my toes wondering who would land the first significant blow. Also, the added fact that Kuroki knew Kiryu's master and was kind of fighting to avenge him was a nice touch. 5. Ryan Kure versus Oma Tokita. Now entering my top 5, here's where I feel I'm being unbiased. This fight for me is probably not my top 5 in terms of what I would most want to re-watch. That being said, it is still entertaining. The build up to it with Yamashita's son essentially on the line added good tension, and Oma's fighting style arc, or whatever you want to call it, is finally completed here. Throughout the first season, Oma is going through a sort of identity crisis with his fighting style, not having faith in it because his master died using it, and relying on the advance too much. Here he overcomes that hurdle by making the Nico style his own and winning with it against a very tough opponent, making this fight very character important, which is why I felt it had to be really high on the list. Number 4. Mutebe Gizenga versus Jun Sekibayashi. I mentioned how Sekibayashi is a great entertainer, and he shows it again in this fight. His insistence on taking whatever the opponent throws at him just makes for a fight you can't take your eyes off of. Much like the other fights in the top 5, and the reason they're all this high. I truly never knew who was going to win this fight. Even when I thought it was genuinely over, the other fighter would respond. Gizenga also impressed me here. Not that I really bought him being able to fight blind and deaf against Sekibayashi, but hey, that's why we love anime. Number 3. Naoya Okubo versus Agito Kano. Out of my top 8, this is the only round 1 fight in here. And right from Okubo's walkout, I knew this was going to be a great fight. The Fang was built up well before his fight started as the fighter to beat in the tournament, which set this up as almost a David versus Goliath situation. The fight begins with Kano dominating, but then Okubo takes him to the ground, and you know me, I love my grapples, so that immediately bumped it up for me. But Kano gets out of his mount pretty easily, and up to this point, the fight was just okay. What really sold this fight for me was everything from this point on where Wakatsuki says, and like a sucker, I believed him. Then Okubo enters this frenzy of attacks that I just couldn't take my eyes off. It was like a beautiful fighting dance, never letting Agito catch his stride. Honestly, if Okubo found a way to win this, it would probably be number 1 on this list. But unfortunately, it ended a little abruptly. Number 2. Gaolan Wongsawat versus Agito Kano. My favorite fighter against the Fang. What can I say? Gaolan just adds a cool factor to every fight he's in. The first half of this fight really was just a superhuman boxing match. And I'm not a huge fan of boxing, but it really added a lot of weight to the punches, making you feel the impact and as though they're actually damaging the fighter. When Gaolan eventually started using his not Muay Thai fighting style or whatever it is, The fight entered another phase where it was just a straight back and forth and the winner was up for grabs. And whoa, wait, what's this? The fighters are getting tired and it's actually affecting their performance? Wow. Now that's revolutionary. I could almost feel the fatigue from the fighters through the screen. I'm sad Gaolan lost, but the fact Agito won using Okubo's strategy was really cool, so I'll allow it. Number 1. Takashi Wakatsuki versus Julius Reinhold. Come on now. Not even my favorite fighter can measure up to this one. This was number 1 in my head before I even started the list. First, let's start with the perfect setup. The natural muscle phenomenon versus the pharmaceutical muscle phenomenon. The way it starts immediately tells you that these guys are evenly matched and you're given absolutely no hints as to who's going to win. I can analyze this all I want, I'm no fight analyst. This fight was just pure awesome. No better way to put it. I know I mentioned earlier that it's nice to see this tournament isn't just muscle-headed freaks punching things really hard, but if you're going to go that route, this is the way to do it. Just the way they walk up to each other in the middle of the fight and start trading blows was hilarious, but also magnificent. There are 3 times in this fight I thought Reinhold was seriously going to win. My guy literally uses a Broly move against this man. And maybe because I was rooting for Wakatsuki, it made his win that much more satisfying, overcoming the beating he took to leg kick this ugly motherfucker in the face and knock him out. The key thing that puts this fight number 1 is when I ask myself, which fight would I most want to rewatch out of all of the Kengan Ashura fights so far? This immediately comes to mind. And there you go, that's my list. Shit on it, praise it, do whatever you want to it. What do I know, I'm just a guy talking into a mic. And if you want, comment your top 5 or your top 3 fights down below. I'll respond, we can discuss. I actually like all of these fights, it's just some are better than others. And like I said, most of these could be rearranged on any given day. But the top 5 I think are pretty rock solid in my mind. With that being said, remember a giveaway is going on right now. Go enter in my last video. The winner should be announced in my next video. Good luck to you all. I will catch you then. Take it easy. And peace.